Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Carden. Hi, Anne.
Hello, Adi. It's so great to see you again.
It's great to see you too. So I was a guest on your show because you are an accomplished podcast host, and we're going to talk about that. But I was on your show, and we had a great conversation about systems and about AI and different aspects of business. And today you are on my show because we are going to talk about you and your business and your area of expertise and how you make entrepreneurs shine and get them the business that they want, like in terms of the marketing, the exposure, and how to do it correctly. So we're going to have a great conversation, but I'm going to start with your bio first.
Okay.
So, Anne, you are a business growth consultant and CEO of Carden Inc. And founder of the Expert in You and marketing and media agency. And it's a brand and marketing media agency. And you are a 4 times author of number one international best-selling author, speaker, top podcast host, as I said, magazine publisher. You work as a consultant coach since 2010, and you've helped hundreds of coaches, consultants, and service businesses add multiple 6 and 7 figures to businesses in over 80 industries.
Yes.
Now, if that is not an accomplishment, then what is an accomplishment? So good job on doing that. That's pretty incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm very happy to have you on this podcast and having this discussion about business growth. But I like to start always at the beginning. I know it's a question you're probably being asked a lot because you're being interviewed, but I'm always curious about it. I'm sure our listeners are curious as well. How did you get started? How did you get into doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I think I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Even when I was a kid, I found ways to make my own money and do my own thing. I think my first money was when I was about 8 years old. So I was selling things to the neighborhood kids. But I went the corporate route. I was in high-end retail department stores, and I was in business management, managing multi-million-dollar departments. And I left that because I had 2 little ones, and they were kind of being raised by daycare. And even though I had worked 13 years and built that career, I knew that wasn't the path I wanted. And I really felt being called to be a mom. So I left that career, I left that income, but financially we were struggling. So that started my first business. I wanted to find a way to make my family extra money. And that turned into a full-blown global business. That was, 35 years ago. And I built 5 more and the 2 that I have now. And I sold 5 previous businesses. So through all of that business experience and everything I had done, all the mistakes and everything I had learned along the way about business and marketing and sales, I really felt like there was such a need out there for small business owners, because for me, back in those days, you didn't have the internet. I didn't have the internet for many of those businesses and those years. Like, it was just Facebook was just kind of coming onto the scene when I sold my last 2 businesses. So that kind of tells you, because I've been doing this almost 15 years consulting, but I felt like I wished I would have known all the things that I learned along the way years ago. And I just realized how are people going to learn this? How can they fast track their success? How can I help them not make the costly mistakes and get more results in their business? And so I started working with small business owners And I remember my first client, they were people I knew from networking. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about being a business consultant, but I want to make sure that my skills and what I know, my knowledge is transferable to other people's businesses. And I got people to say yes and pay me. And long story short, that was a lot of years ago. So, but that's how I really got into it. How I got into what I'm doing now is just really through evolution of my business. It just became such a natural flow in my business. I wanted to come into the online world. This was even before COVID because I wanted a business that gave me more freedom. When I first started consulting, I was running around locally. I was meeting with business owners. I was networking. I was doing all those things. But I realized I had kind of created another job for myself. So I wanted more of a freedom business. I also wanted to expand and work with people everywhere, not just in my local market. And coming into the online world, that was just, oh gosh, it was complex. There was so much to learn and so much to know. And through just a lot of mentorship and investing and all of those things, I built an incredible online business and started helping other people do the same. So
That's
that's where we
amazing.
are.
So let's I have many questions. I'm going to start with one. So our listeners are listening to you right now and they go, well, how do I know if Ann can help me? So what are the main areas that you can help businesses?
Yes. So I really work, I like to say I'm really kind of an A to Z consultant. One of the things that I do is I look at people's business models and I look at the gaps in their business, very much like you do with systems, right? You look at what they're missing and what they need. I do the same thing. I look at their business as a whole and I look at where they want to go and what is keeping them from getting there. So I work with people in their businesses in all aspects, but my main driver right now is helping them make sure their revenue model is going to bring in high-end clients. So I help people work at the top of their industry to get the best clients, the highest prices, make sure their offers are packaged and priced in a way. And I've done this again, many, many years in over 80 industries, whether it's an auto repair shop or a plumbing company or a consultant or a professional service provider. It's like, if you've got the expertise, you should be playing at the top of the market, not competing with the beginners and the amateurs. That's the way I like to say it. So I work with people who
And I think let's talk about that point. I think you are absolutely that's a great viewpoint. So you're absolutely correct on that. So let's talk about why entrepreneurs or business owners are not at that top. Why are they playing lower? What do you see are the biggest mistake, like, or misconceptions out there that they are not actually at the top of their game?
Well, it's two things. They don't realize what they could be doing differently sometimes. So it's a lack of understanding. They don't look at themselves as an expert a lot of times, or maybe they do, but they just don't really know how to do anything different than what they're doing. So they just don't have the skill set or the knowledge or the strategies to play at the top of the game. Those are the two most common reasons.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what are some of the, we're all about systems. So what are some of the systems that somebody can put in place, or that you help coach them to put it in place for them to be at the top of their field, to become experts, to become thought leaders?
Yes. So everything has to be a system, everything from your offers, the way your offers are structured and presented to your clients. So many people a la carte, or they write a lot of proposals, but they don't really have a clear, structured offer to the market. And that really holds them back. And when I help people create, it's part of their positioning as well. But when I help them create a really clear offer around what they do, now they can have different levels of that offer. But when they get, I call it your $1 million offer, when they get very clear around what is it we are presenting to the market that we're so great at, and they put that into a really clear offer. You mentioned 4 things right at the beginning. That tells me you have real clarity around where you play in the market, right? And where you play with your clients. but a lot of people don't have that, Adi.
No, it's
They're
interesting and that you picked up on it because it's true. The
Mm.
way that I was able to distill it to the 4 offerings is because I did exactly what you are talking about. We identified our proven process, and that's
Yes.
what it is. It is we identify, we document, we optimize, and we implement, and that is we have a diagram that shows it,
Yes.
flow chart, and then we have the maintenance phase. So it's very much systematized in terms of like when you go and work with us, when you come and work with us, this is what you're gonna get, and there is
Yeah,
no
you don't list 40 things, right?
no, and we
No.
also have it on our website. Like, if you go to our services page,
Mhm.
it's step by step. I mean, I'm just validating what you're saying because it's correct, because you
Yes.
have to, first of all, identify that. And when we identify that, that's where things changed. It wasn't confusing anymore, because I used to get all the time, well, what is it that you do? What is it that you do?
Right. I did too. I had to learn this. I actually had to really learn this along the way. It was confusing. Most people they are really kind of still confused. They don't have a clear structured offer. And so if you don't, you confuse the client and the buyers, and they don't know what they're buying into as well.
Exactly. And I
Mhm.
think and you are very clear on it as well. Like, you help people write high level offers. I mean, that's
Mhm.
very specific. So I'm a consultant and I feel like I can get more, or I can offer more than the image that I got when you say that is that I'm going to walk away from a consultation with you or working with you for a period of time with a template for an offer that I can then know how to submit a good offer to somebody, to a potential client, but also know who your potential clients are.
Exactly. So that's all part of it. So if I always say your marketing can be great, your sales can be great, your team can be great, but if your offers are not structured in a way, number one, to make the money you want to make. When I talk about offers, I talk about high profitability. So a lot of people can create an offer, but creating something at the top of the market that is commanding top dollar, that's the part most people really struggle with. So
You're
I mean,
absolutely right.
clients go from charging $1,500 for a 90-day offer to $50,000 clients. That's a big difference and a big leap. And if you look at that, the reason I call it $1 million offer is because if you really look at it, you don't need a lot of clients at say $50,000 or $100,000 or maybe $250,000 to reach that $1 million. But if you don't have that clear defined offer, I always say if that offer can't really make you $1 million without exhaustion, you needed better offer. So that is the first thing that I look at. And it is a system. Your offer is a system and it should be clearly defined. That's the first step. So your revenue model has to align with your goals. It has to align with the market that you're wanting to attract. And then you can put the positioning in place, which is the outside perception of how the market sees you. So you can't command top dollar if you look like a cheap used car and not the Lamborghini, right? So the market perception, and this is called positioning, is what people are seeing. And that has to be aligned with getting those premium top dollar clients. And within the positioning, there's a lot of things. They have to be able to get to know, like, and trust you. This should be done online. So now we have the online world, right? And people can check you out 24/7, 365 days a year. But if you don't have strong positioning, you're going to lose business. Silently, you're losing business.
So how do you create that positioning? So let's say somebody understands, okay, they start working with you, they figure out the process, because it's a process, it's a system, that you have to, I mean, I know from my experience, you have to figure it out internally and then you can present it to the world, but you have to be very well defined and you have to work with somebody. So working with somebody like you, it's perfect because you've been there, you've done that, you're a successful and accomplished entrepreneur, and you understand what it takes, and that you don't want to get burned out, but you have to have the right offer. And obviously you have to deliver that offer. I mean, that's what I learned is like, after, it goes hand in hand, right? I mean, you create the offer and at the same time, internally, you figure out how to deliver that.
Yes, that's
So
all part of it too. And what aligns with you? How do you want to deliver? There's lots of ways. You've built a lot of consultants under you. I have not done that. I do most of the delivery, but I do have a team that supports me
correct.
on that. So, there's different ways to deliver. Same
Right.
thing if you have employees, right? Delivering
Exactly.
your
That's
offer.
exactly right. And
Yeah.
then, okay, so now how do you position yourself? Like, what
Mhm.
are some of the key elements in order to position yourself as the expert? Because it's one
Yes.
thing to provide the offer and work on your mindset and you become convinced that you can actually deliver the offer. Now, how do you position yourself as the thought leader, as the expert? Like, what are some of the must do in order to position yourself as such?
Yes. Well, in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you, you need to stand out like a rock star expert in your industry or in your niche. And if you think about what would you think of if you think about like a rock star expert, right? You would think about almost like a celebrity or famous in the market. That's part of it, because the more visible you are, the more you look like you're doing big things. Success attracts success, right? So if you're trying to play at the top of your market, who are you trying to attract? You're trying to attract success, other successful people that you can work with at those top dollar fees. So that's the first thing. But one of the things is not just standing out like a rock star, but also you have to look completely different from everyone else in your market. No one else should be able to say they do what you do the way you do it. And that needs to come out in your messaging, in everything that people see. I always say, what do you want to be known for? Let's define that. And then let's put that everywhere people see. I am well known, not just for my brand expert in you, but I am well known for helping people play in the premium market. That is, you can check me out everywhere. You can look at me on hundreds of podcasts, my own podcast. You're going to see the same message. You're going to see the same things that I do over and over again, and how I've done that, even with auto repair shops, plumbing companies, helping them get top dollar in their market for what they're doing. So this can apply to any business, not just a coaching or a consulting business, but it can apply to any business when you get the positioning right. So you have to stand out. You have to be relevant to the market you're going after. You have to understand the market. What would make them want to pay you top dollar? Why would they care? And so all of that has to be built in. Also, trust and credibility. This is all part of strong positioning. When other people are singing your praises, for example, that goes a long way than if you were singing your own praises, right? Showing up and letting people see what you bring to the market. As you can see, I'm not sitting here reading from a script. I'm not, we didn't even talk about questions beforehand. We are literally having a conversation. That's how experts can do
That's right.
things. They
That's
know
right.
their stuff. They can show up. They're not afraid. They shine. They're confident in what they do. And so all of that needs to come out in everything people see about you, whether you're in a networking room with people or they're seeing you online. So this is all part of it. But the one thing that I help people do is play a big game online, because that is like 24/7, 365 days of silent salespeople for you. So if you're not doing that, even if you're doing a lot of offline stuff, which I speak on stages, and that's about all I do offline anymore, but I merge the two worlds. When I meet people, when I go out and speak and I meet people offline, I pull them into my online world. I connect with them on LinkedIn. I start to nurture and build that relationship. When people aren't playing this kind of a game, they're missing a huge opportunity to not just dominate their market or expand their reach, but they're missing a big opportunity to, again, really play at the top of their market and get paid more for what they do. I mean, 3 to 10 times is the average of what I help people get paid more
Absolutely.
for the same thing they're already doing.
Right. And then you just elevate the game. And I can't relate more to what you're doing. I mean, I totally understand, because those are the steps that I used in order to get to where I'm at. And you used it yourself as well. So
Yes.
I'm a big proponent of that. So, and if our listeners would like to learn more about you, they want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yes, you can go to, I actually have two websites. I have expertinu.com, which is the marketing and media agency. And then I have my consulting site, which is annlcarden.com. And there's all kinds of information. My podcast is on there, my magazine, my books. You can book a call if you like what I'm saying and you want some help. So you can check those out.
Excellent. So we'll have all of it in the show notes, and we will also include the episode that you did with me. So that will be a way to get people very easily to the to your podcast as well. So
Great.
I really appreciate your expertise and sharing all the knowledge with us. And I encourage our listeners to reach out and learn more about you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the wonderful conversation, very insightful, very enlightening, and I'm sure you're going to be a recurring guest on this podcast because I have many more questions, but we like to keep our episodes to a certain length so our listeners listen and reach out and then wait for the next episode when we're going to talk about more.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.